So the Department of Occupational Therapy and some folks from the Leadership Education and Neurodevelopmental Disabilities Program are pleased to welcome Dr. Saeed Nafai back to UNE. Saeed is here during a very important time in our nation and in the world. I believe that his message can help us move toward working on interprofessional teams with people from the Muslim culture, and in doing so, influence all people toward the greater good. The platinum rule is to treat others as they would like to be treated, as opposed to the golden rule that states treat others in the way you would like to be treated. So on to my introduction of Dr. Nafai. Dr. Nafai is the brother of a person with a neurodevelopmental disability. He is a doctorally trained occupational therapist who works in rehabilitation, disability, and participation. He's a faculty member at the American International College, the founder of OT in Morocco, and current president of the OT Association of Morocco. He is an advocate for lymphedema treatment, human rights, and occupational therapy across borders, and the president of Global Impacts, an organization that promotes cultural competence through service-based travel. When he is not busy assuming all these roles, he is dedicated to advancing goodwill through global diplomacy and worldwide occupational justice. I first met Dr. Nafai, Saeed, when he tracked me down at an AOTA conference after hearing that I had done a sabbatical in Morocco. I was immediately taken, I was a little bit overwhelmed by the energy, warmth, and connection radiating from his personality. Saeed and I became friends and colleagues. Saeed and I taught 2 undergraduate courses together, with Saeed at UNE Morocco and me in Biddeford, not a fair exchange. But since that time, Saeed has worked diligently to stay connected with UNE. My necessary addition of a funny story is that when Saeed came and stayed with my husband and I during one of our early collaborative events, I instructed my husband, who's a very good cook, that we should not have alcohol or pork because Saeed is Muslim. However, the next day, when asked where he wanted to go to lunch, he immediately responded, "The Thirsty Pig," which is an establishment that serves pork and alcohol. I later learned that Saeed's sister-in-law is the proprietor of that establishment, but it makes for a good story. And speaking of good stories, Saeed has many, and he tells them well. Students, faculty, staff, and members of the community, we are fortunate to have a master teacher and an outstanding human being with us today. Dr. Nafai will help us learn cultural effectiveness, human compassion, and global service diplomacy. Please join me in giving a hearty Maine welcome to Dr. Saeed Nafai.
Thank you very much for this kind word, and I feel honored to be here. First of all, in the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, I'll start this presentation, and I thank God for giving me the opportunity to be here with you. It's really a great honor, and I always say that to be in the healthcare field, it's an honor itself because you will be serving humanity. So thank you for this choice. As Dr. Lucas mentioned, UNE it's have a special place in my heart. Since 2014, I had the opportunity to teach 2 classes actually in Morocco, and it was a perfect opportunity because I get the chance to be in a country that's my home country, and also teach something that I love, which is OT, and also was the opportunity also to take my daughter with me from here, so she was having the chance to learn more about OT, which actually convinced her now to want to become an OT. So my wife, by the way, she's an OT, I'm an OT, and my daughter want to be an OT. So we're going to be an OT family. And my little one, actually, she wanted to be an OT since she was like 3 years old. When she goes to my wife to the pediatric doctors and she sees like somebody jumping in the waiting room, and she reached to my wife and she says, "I think he has ADHD." So she's already diagnosing people and preparing a treatment plan. So, this is, anybody here met a Muslim or live near a Muslim? Or that's good. All right. So, and for those of you who did not get the chance, so here is your chance. So now everybody here met a Muslim somewhere. So the reason why I start addressing this topic is that there is about 1.7 billion Muslims in the world. Unfortunately, with the climate here in the USA and other world area, it's a lot of misconception and a lot of stigma that can be actually affecting the Muslim community, and can also maybe by learning more about it, you'll be able actually to be a better practitioner in case one day you'll be working with somebody that share this religion or culture. So these are some of the objectives that we will mention today. So the top of them is actually just to increase your awareness. Okay, I know you may hear this term about cultural competence. It's actually a term that's not used now more, because you will never be competent in somebody else's culture. Okay, so the term that is preferred to be used is cultural sensitivity, cultural humility, or cultural fluidity. So it's learning about other cultures. It's actually learning about their history, learning about things that they may offend them if you do them, things that maybe it looks for you that is abnormal, but they may be normal for them. So it's kind of more helpful to learn about them. And I assume here, beside OT students, is somebody from other?
Yes, from Len, from the VNA, from the community.
Okay.
And then program Northeast Hearing and Speech.
All right. So there's not just OT students, but healthcare workers. And the reason why I ask, because I just came from South Africa 2 weeks ago from the World Federation of Occupational Therapists. And actually, one of the keynote speakers said something that's actually resonates with me. And she said, to be an occupational therapist, you need to be an activist. And actually, I will expand this to be a healthcare worker, you need to be an activist. Okay? So any area in the healthcare that you work, no matter if you're a nurse or PT, OT, speech, social worker, it doesn't matter what you are, so you have to be an activist. You will come across some underserved population that you will advocate for them and give them the best opportunity, the best treatment that they deserve. So looking at the world map here, you will see where is the majority of Muslim people live. Again, it's about 1.7 billion. Now it's a little bit more, because that was like in 2009. And ironically, the majority of Muslims are in Indonesia, which is a country that only they converted to Islam when they came in contact with some Muslim merchants years ago. So it was no war, it was no conquering, it was just the people there fall in love with the Muslim merchant that they were coming to their region, and they converted to Islam many years ago. If you see there, the next one is Pakistan. And there is here, if you look at your the hospital where you go to see your own doctor, or where you work, where you do a field work internship, you will definitely see a doctors that's originally from Pakistan or India that has a Muslim name. Can be the name Muhammad, Ahmed. So it's about 25 to 30,000 medical doctors here in the United States that's from a Pakistani origin, Pakistani or Indo-Pak. India, 161 million Muslims, Bangladesh, and then Morocco, which is actually where I'm from, as I mentioned earlier. We have now about 40 million people. There is a tiny population that they are Jewish. So mainly in the region of Fez. And we still, when I go to Morocco, I go like 3-4 times a year. And sometimes I bring my students with me. And one of the things we visit are synagogue. So churches in Casablanca. But there are more synagogues actually than churches in Morocco. And mosques are everywhere as well. The Jewish population in Morocco, if you recall the 1492 when the Muslims were kicked out of Spain, they used to control Spain and south of Italy and some region in Portugal as well. So they were kicked by the Crusaders, and then they seek refuge in other countries in the region, and including Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, and the Jewish population fled. And actually, the king of Morocco saved thousands and thousands of them, welcomed them to Morocco. And also, World War II, actually, the Jewish population that fled from Europe, about 250,000 of them sought refuge in Morocco and were saved by the grandfather of the current king. Muhammad VI is the current one. The king who saved them is Muhammad V. And just a few years ago, he was given to the king that they gave him an award for saving those Jewish people in the World War II. So, and which is actually sometimes, it's kind of ironically how now Muslims are seeking refuge in countries, including the United States, but unfortunately are denied entry. So as healthcare professionals, when I was in South Africa, we actually discussed the refugees crisis in Jordan from the Syrian population, actually. In Jordan, it's about 2 million people from Syria fled to Jordan. In Turkey, it's about 2 million. In Lebanon, hundreds of thousands people. And so we try to support the OT association in those countries to provide services for those refugees. A lot of them are children, women, and who have trauma, who have either amputation, have injuries, so they need as much, and unfortunately, they don't have, and a lot of them, the children, they have not been in school for the last 5-6 years. The crisis started in 2011. It has been now for 7 years, and almost 500,000 people died, unfortunately. So the Islamic faith, or Islam, it has pillars, and then also the pillars of faith. Okay, so in some monotheism, theistic religion, we believe in the oneness of God. So for pillars of Islam, there are 5, and declaration of faith, which is the one praying 5 times a day, which is what we call salat, S-A-L-A-T, salat, and this is 5 times a day. The first one is early dawn, the midday, third one is about afternoon, and then the sunset one, and then after the sunset, about 2 hours, there is another one. Fast giving money to charity. So every year, it's expected to give about 2.5% of your money that you saved. So you have to give toward the charity. Just about last Friday, we finished Ramadan, the month of Ramadan. So this is a month that in the entire month we fast from early dawn to sunset, and now it comes in the summer times, so it does rotate. So it's every year it goes back about 12, 13 days. So I love it when it's sunset by 4:15 in the winter. So this year it was long, so it's like about 8:30, and it's like from 3:30 you cannot eat or drink until 3:30 a.m. until 8:30 p.m. So like but I have I have been doing it since I was like 9 years old or 10 years old, so I get used to it. But I got a little bit spoiled when I was in South Africa because the sunset there was 5:45. And early dawn there, it was 6:20 a.m. So it was perfect. Like I got up and have my breakfast, and then at 4, I have like my lunch, But 5:45. So the last one, only if you can, which is pilgrimage to Mecca in Saudi Arabia, only if you have the means to. So for example, a Muslim cannot maybe go borrow money or leave his or her family in a financial crisis to go perform that. So it's only if you have the means to do it. And then pillars of faith, it's believed that Allah, it's one and only God that exists. And by the way, the word Allah, it's Arabic word for God. Okay? So the God of Jesus and Abraham is the same God, and Moses is the same God that we believe in. It's just in Arabic called Allah. So the Jewish population we have in Morocco, or Christians that are in Lebanon, in Syria, or in Egypt, they say the word Allah in Arabic. And another thing that a lot of people think that all Arabs are Muslims, or all Muslims are Arabs, which is not true. It's a myth. So all Muslims, as you just saw, the majority of Muslim country, Muslims are in Indonesia who don't speak Arabic. Pakistan, the second one, they don't speak Arabic. So the only one that speaks Arabic is the one like in North Africa and some in Asia. But technically, it's the word Allah. It means exactly God, but it's in Arabic. So we have to believe in angels. Believe in the holy books, by the way, it's plural, which is Quran, Bible, and the Torah. And then believe in the prophets, all of them, and believe in the day of judgment, and also believe in predestination. So America and Islam. So Islam is part of America. This is in 2009, actually, just to like a fresh start with the Muslim world. President Obama made a historic speech in Cairo, and one of the things that's actually a lot of people don't know, it's and for if you go to Morocco, you will be able to see it. There is actually a letter my wife and I we read that actually was written by George Washington, thanking the Moroccan government for recognizing the United States as an independent country. So Morocco, a Muslim Arab country, was the first country in the world to recognize the United States as an independence from England, 1777. And also there is actually a letter that the American president thanking the Moroccan Sultan, king, for Morocco used to protect the United States in the Mediterranean. There were a lot of piracy, so ships they would pass by, and Morocco has access to Mediterranean and Atlantic Ocean, so they used to protect the commercial ships that go through from piracy. So one of the letters, if you make it there, there's a letter there also that they have in the museum technically. So Muslims in America dates back to the 1500s with the arrival of African Muslim slave and Spanish Muslim explorer. Actually, in the early 1900s, immigrants from Middle East arrived to the promised land they called America. So in America, we call it America. So in 1700, I think 1600, I put it there. Actually, a Moroccan guy, his name Spanish name is Stevanico, and his name is Mustafa Zamouri. He's actually from a region near where my home is, and he is considered the discoverer of New Mexico. So he was with a big ship that collided in the Florida area, and a lot of them died. He was like one of 3 or 2 people that survived, and then he ended up. So I can literally go to New Mexico and say, hey, I own this place. I'm related to that guy. So he discovered New Mexico, and it's funny, like I never been to New Mexico, but some people that they went there and then they went to Morocco, they told me the houses is exactly like how Morocco is. It's very, you know, it's who knows. So Muslims in America, the percentage, you know, it's at the east about 32%. So the South 25.3%, African American, from South Asian origin 34%, Arab about 26%, and so those are the region where they are located. I think Dearborn in Michigan, it's the highest where Muslims are kind of live. Just gonna show you this for a quick. So I'm just going to stop here. It's a little bit long, but I just want to give you an idea. And, as you have seen, there is some backlash that Muslim can go and see or survive in their community every day. And unfortunately, it can literally affect their safety and affect the way that they feel that they don't belong here. And my wife, actually, who is the one here on the right, she's from upstate New York, and she converted to Islam in 2001, just like 6 months before, actually, September 11 attack. And so now, because she wears the headscarf, she's totally kind of like different, like maybe by people who have some prejudice or some, less educated or racist or whatever. And one time she was actually by a lady, she told her, go back to your country. And my wife, she's like, I'm from upstate New York. I can't go back to New York, I'm from New York. And but ironically, my wife is actually related to Susan B. Anthony. It's her 7th cousin removed. And it's an irony. Here is somebody who is actually her ancestor gave you the power to be outside and vote and stuff, and you're telling her to go back to her country. It's crazy. So let me go back to Maine. So in your state here, I did a lot of research and found that the first group of Muslims arrived in Maine. It was in 1900, and they were actually Albanian recruited to work in textile in Bedford area. And there's a claim also that their mosque in Bedford was the first to be established in the USA. And the community of Albanian Muslims was mostly wiped out by the Spanish influenza that came in 1918. There's about 6,000 Muslims here in Maine, and the majority of them are refugees from Somalia, Iraq, Sudan, and Afghanistan. Actually, there is the majority from Somalia. After the war and the civil war in the 1990s, a lot of them fled here. So there is now a second, maybe first generation and second and so forth. The majority of the Somalian actually is in Minnesota, and I think the second one is actually here in Maine. There are 8 mosques in Maine, 4 in Portland, 2 in Lewiston, and 1 in Augusta, and 1 in Orono. Orono. Hi, that's just my Boston accent. You can visit a mosque regardless of your religion. Feel free to schedule a tour or drop in. So some people feel free to do it. Study about Muslims and Islam, or you want to learn about a mosque, you can just call, and they are always welcoming, and then they'll give you a tour or something. We have a mosque in Worcester where I live, and we have once in a while somebody come and do a tour. And we also get involved in interfaith dialogue and groups. So we have people coming from synagogues or churches, and we do some meetings and stuff, which is good. So 20% of American Muslims are converts. For example, this is my wife on the right, as I mentioned. The other one is Muhammad Ali, who passed away a few years ago. And so this is also his convert as well. So how the other mainstream U.S. religion views Islam. So Pope John Paul to kiss the Quran as a sign of respect to the Islamic religion as well. So fact to know, as I mentioned to you before, not all the Arabs are Muslims, and not all the Muslims are Arabs. As the video you saw, there is kind of, the terrorist attack happened, and even the perpetrator was found to be a Muslim. Unfortunately, the media will then make a huge kind of knows about it, but if he was not a Muslim, then you don't hear much about it. So, and that's what makes it kind of like you hear it so much in the media, which was, if you look at it, it's only 6% of all the extremist terrorism that happened. And then other extreme wings, 24%, Latino, 42%, but unfortunately you don't hear much about them. The majority of the terror attacks in the USA done by non-Muslims. Worldwide, Muslims are the biggest majority of victims, even in an act that's committed by Muslims, unfortunately, or they call themselves Muslims. So, for example, in Syria or in Iraq or in Afghanistan, Pakistan, they may go and bomb a mosque or a school, whatever, and there's no American or European live there. They're all Muslims, and then a market, and then the victims end up, as you mentioned, 97% of the victims are Muslims. And there is nothing that justifies doing this, but some extremists, that's what their interpretation of whatever thing that they believe in, so they'll go and act like this just for political or for whatever reason that they have. So what Muslims in the US fear, as the video was mentioning. So the reason why I'm mentioning that is because you may be working with a child or with a patient, or that it may be, these things can affect their health. If like an OT, it can affect their ADL, IADL. It can affect maybe their sleep. Maybe they can be depressed. So it's kind of related to what, as a healthcare worker, all the discrimination, hate speech, physical assault, PTSD, it can affect the person you'll be working with, or the person maybe as a colleague that may be working with, if you're an OT or you're a nurse or whatever, and somebody maybe in your team as a colleague or a staff also may go through these issues. So the assumption that I am one of them, or one of the few that commit acts of terrorism against America that are considered extremists or mentally ill within our religious community. And unfortunately, even sometimes somebody commits a crime or a terrorist attack, and they maybe even have some mental health issues. Unfortunately, they are not given the same, treatment as somebody who maybe doesn't have any religion, or maybe Christian or Jewish or whatever. But when they committed, then they start saying, "Oh, he's mentally ill," or "he's that." But if he was a Muslim, they don't care if you are mentally ill or not. So Islamic culture. So this is in kind of, it's used broadly. However, even within countries that are shared the Muslim or Islamic faith, you'll find different cultures. Okay. So an example, in Morocco, we have women that are pilots, women who are doing car racing, women who are doctors, women who are mechanic. But which is, it's nothing in Islam that said women cannot do these things. Okay. However, based on some other countries that are Muslims, women are not allowed, for example, to even go to school. Like in Afghanistan. Okay. But this is when people get mixed up, and then they think that Islam said that's stuff, which has nothing to do with the religion. Okay, it's just the culture of that country that happened to be maybe a majority are Muslims. Right? So, for example, are not allow women to work. However, if you look at the history of Prophet Muhammad, he was actually working for his wife. So his wife was his boss. And so she had the business, and he was working for her. So it just within the culture of that religion, you may find a different interpretation of based on their culture. The two main sects in Islam are Sunni, which is about 90%. Of 1.7 billion are the Sunni sect, and then there is the Shia, which is mainly in Iran, some small population in Pakistan, Bahrain, and Middle East. So in total, it's about 120 million Shia. So about less than 10% actually. This is a word that you will hear a lot. That's one of the first words I teach my students who are going to Morocco. You will hear it a lot. Salam, salam. It's like mean hi, or like mean peace be upon you. So the complete sentence is Salamu alaikum, which is also close to the Hebrew Shalom alaikum, which is like a peace be upon you, right? And it is in most of the Muslim countries, you say this when you enter a room, you say salam, okay? And the elder population, which is something that's actually it starts to be missing here in this country, it's more respected in Muslim faith countries. Okay, so like the majority of Muslim countries do not have nursing home because it's expected from the children to take care of their parents. Right? So when we go to Morocco, there is my city where I'm from. We have one nursing home, and the only reason why we have that nursing home because those about 75 or 80 person that's in that nursing home that hosts them don't have any family members. So this is one of the reasons why, or the main reason why they have that nursing home for them. It is, handshaking. You need to follow the cue of the person. So some Muslims may not, just like the Orthodox Jews, a male and female may not shake your hand. Okay, may just like nod their head, and some maybe like the eye contact, so you're talking to them, and maybe they're avoiding looking at you in the eye. That doesn't mean they are in the spectrum. Don't want to kind of have that eye contact as a modesty. So if you have a patient, and so follow their cues. If you see them, they are reaching first, then you reach. If not, then you'll wait until they initiate the handshake. Eye contacts, sometimes, as I mentioned, they may just like gaze in your shoulder. If they are very modest and they don't want to have that eye contact. And, the medical treatment, some may be preferred. Like if you are an OT, you want to do an EDL. So a male may prefer to have a male, a female, most likely. Say like I want a female therapist. Sometimes I'm a victim of this as well. Even with some, I say Portuguese ladies, some from Greek, Turkish. And one of my patients, like always, when I go to an eval and stuff, they say, "Oh no, I don't want to do an EDL with you. Like, can I have a female?" Which is okay. We respect that, and. So you may also have this from somebody who following the Muslim faith. Muslims do not bow to other people as common in Eastern tradition. So like, how in Japan or like they may do this. So like in the Islamic faith, it's forbidden to bow to anybody except of God. So one of the things that actually women that follow the Muslim faith, or the majority of them, some of them choose not to, that is their choice. They wear what we call hijab, Hijab. And so hijab literally means something that's kind of protect. It's a protection, okay? And it's actually, the way it looks at it is that it's kind of, you judge the person about their personality, not about how they look. And so this is my two daughters, Safiya, and then the little one, Mina. And as I mentioned, both want to be an OTs. And so one of the things actually I'm like looking into is like OTs in other Muslim countries, or even here, if you work with somebody who's Muslims, how you have to learn how to teach somebody who's a Muslim woman has a stroke how to put a headscarf using one-hand technique, for example. So it's good to know how to practice if you get a chance to, because you may end up having this as part of your ideal treatment. The another one for male also before we pray, we have to do ablution, to prepare for the prayer, which is we wash some part of the body, and also it will be difficult for somebody who has a stroke. So also we should maybe learn and teach him how to do it with hand technique. So actually the reason why I'm mentioning this, do you use the OT toolkit? The book, the OT toolkit. So the OT.
Framework they're wearing.
Okay. Yeah. So this is a book that has all kind of treatment or transfers education form. Yeah. So and actually the author of it, I met her in AOT conference, and we are working together to translate to Arabic. And also I want to add this stuff I just mentioned to you, like how to do an EDL treatment with somebody that's maybe with headscarf, or prepared to be washing their parts of their body a certain way before the prayer, because it was not included in that original book. So in some countries wherein the hijab is obligatory, for example in Iran, Saudi Arabia, but in others, as the United States, is considered a personal choice, and is not a symbol of repression and separation. So people choose to wear it. Okay? So because even here in America, unfortunately, sometimes they may think that women are oppressed and they are asked to wear it. I never asked my wife to wear it. She chose to. Okay? And you find very successful woman, she's like having a high career, and she chooses to wear it. Okay? And some of them are even singles. Nobody asks her to wear it. It's a personal choice. You may heard this term food regarding it's halal. So in Judaism, it's kosher. It's in the Muslim faith, you'll find it's halal. So if you go to New York City or some restaurants, you'll see that it's halal. It means it's mainly actually regarding the meat, So chicken, beef. So we don't eat pork, by the way. And we don't drink alcohol. Those are forbidden in Islam. But you might find some Muslims drinking alcohol. In the word halal, restaurant, what it means is that the meat was prepared a certain way. Not that to that maybe extent as for the kosher. It just means that the animal was slaughtered directly without stunning the animal. So unfortunately, in a regular meat that you may be eating, I'm not marketing for halal food, but just like a scientific method that they actually looked at. So the halal or the kosher meat, it's much better than the regular meat. And the reason why, because the animal it's not stunned, is not electrocuted. So when they cut the throat of the animal, all the blood leave the body, so there is less bacteria remains in the meat. Okay? So even the meat, when you put it in the fridge, it stays longer and it tastes better. If you eat the other meat, there's a possibility that some blood remain because they stunned the animal, and then the animal, it's not totally getting the blood out of the body, even after they slaughtered, because it was not kind of totally with it when they cut the throat. So this is the ablution that I was talking to you about. So if you walk to a bathroom and you see somebody putting their foot in the sink, they are washing their feet, to prepare for the prayer. Okay? So you wash the mouth, the nose, the face, the hands, and then the hair, and then the ears, and then the feet is the last one. So we do this 5 times a day to prepare for the prayer. If you some of the person in an area where there's no water, then they can use a piece of a rock or something just to wipe their hand and face because there is no water. And it is also recommended that when somebody performing the ablution, that they don't waste a lot of water as well. The prayer, as we mentioned, we pray 5 times a day. If you are working with somebody in the hospital or a child, for example, one of the school we help, I took my student to in Springfield. It's about 800 students, about 80 of them, 10% or 12% are Iraqis, refugees, Syrian, and they like to pray during school time. So the principal, very understanding of their culture and their religion, so she gave them her office to pray during the prayer, and she is so very supportive of it. If you work with somebody, a sick person, if they are praying, you might walk to the room and they may be praying even in bed. So if somebody, because it's involving physical movement, so if they are maybe walk to the room, they may be like talking, like mumbling, that means they are praying, most likely they are praying. So, when you may talk to them and they may not answer you. So that means they are praying, so they're not ignoring you. I said this funny story last time I was here as well. I was studying for NBCT exam. There's an exam you take to become an OT. And I was in the library, and the prayer time came in. So I went, and I'm looking for a quiet place to pray. So I choose a quiet place between the books aisle. And so I'm praying, and the librarian, so I'm like in this position. And the librarian came in, she's like, "Are you looking for a book?" and I didn't talk to her, so I continued. She's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." I was like, she thought I'm doing like this, I'm looking for a book. And what book are you looking for? Prayer book. So if you do that, do not interrupt the person. Do not step and walk in front of them, because they are praying, so don't walk. You can walk behind them, but not in front of them. And every place, as I mentioned, because it's kind of sun-related, about where the sun is. It's this is a website where every region has a time. So, for example, if I go to another country, the time may be totally different than here. Even like between here and Boston area, maybe like another 5-10 minute difference for the prayer. Muslim patients, as I mentioned, maybe they may not be responsive. They don't get scared. They're just praying. Don't call it blue code. If you do home care, some OTs or PTs or nurses, speech, they go and do home care. So it's expected to leave your shoes outside. Don't bring them inside. And if make sure that is clean, and also when you go inside, like in a hospital room, it's okay to wear shoes. That's fine. But just their own home, it's expected to leave the shoes outside. The main holiday for Muslims is Friday, so our ceremony is at noon, not morning, not at night, but it's exactly the middle, the second prayer, which is around 1 o'clock. And it takes about the whole ceremony and prayer about an hour and a half. So if you work with the Muslims, most of them, if there is a mosque in the area, on Friday by noon or like 12:30, they may leave and they may not come back until 2 o'clock. So in case you wonder where your colleague disappeared on Friday at noon. There is 2 major holidays in Islamic faith. there is one at the right after Ramadan, which is last Friday was one. And then there is the one that's called Eid al-Adha, or sacrifice holiday. And this one is about 70 days after the first one. So it will be about July 20th, something like that. And it is expected, yeah, so I didn't change the data. So it is expected to be July 20 something, sorry, August 22nd or 20th. It is a tradition of the Prophet Abraham. That is the second holiday. In Islam, cleanliness is important because it's a prerequisite for prayer. And so a cat, it's okay. Majority of Muslims, it's okay that they may have a cat at home, but some may not, the majority of them may not allow a dog. Just because of the saliva, it's considered not clean. But if you have a service dog, it's okay. If you have a hunting dog, it's okay. But you can have it outside. A regular dog can have it outside its own, but it's not inside the home. Fasting, Ramadan, as I mentioned, just because of the time, I'm gonna, like body language. Sometimes, do you want the person to be like talking, like similar to what we have. However, accidentally or touching somebody with your foot, it's considered disrespectful. All right. So I'll show you a quick. I think I showed it here last time, but just to show you an incident happened between President Obama and President of Turkey. So watch President Obama when he's gonna cross his leg and point his shoes toward President Erdogan, which is a Muslim from Turkey. See that? So right away he give it to him back. So he crossed his leg as he looks at it, that's totally disrespectful, and then I'm gonna disrespect you just did to me. Did you see it? Okay, look at President Erdogan, how he looked at his leg. All right. So things like that can be, some countries, they may, like in Iran, Saudi Arabia, they may forbidden pictures and stuff, but in Morocco, Tunisia, majority of Muslim countries, they are fine with it. Pictures are okay, but there are some maybe Muslim home you may enter, and they may not have any picture, because they think the only God can create a human being or something, so they don't want to be look like you're creating some type, especially painting somebody. They may not like it, or at least have it in their home. In Islam, if you have somebody sick, it's recommended you visit them as much as it's actually a tradition that Prophet Muhammad said that you have a good deed from, it's a good deed to visit the ill. However, we understand also sometimes they need rest. So if you work with a patient who has a lot of people visiting and you think that's going to interfere with their recovery, it's okay to say, you know what, let's limit visit maybe to 5 minutes, because it's like I noticed also in the Portuguese culture, in Spanish culture, like you have literally 20 people coming inside the room and they stay there for like hours. And that's exactly how the Muslim cultures, the Arabs, they'll come in and then they'll visit, and then somebody who just had a surgery, or they have some diagnosis that they need break and rest. And unfortunately, they mean well, they want to visit, but sometimes it can be very tiring for the person. And then they'll talk to the person, what do you have? What did the doctor say? And then the person is, just by talking and answering those questions, it's demand a lot of energy. So it's understandable why they do it, but also it's okay as a healthcare professional to kind of set a limit. I had one time actually a Portuguese lady. Her mom had actually a cancer surgery, and she wrote a sign and put it in the front of her door, and she had the nurse always put it in the nurse, she did like limit your visit for 5 minutes and only 2 people at a time, instead of having everybody in. And now by 6 p.m. or like 5 p.m., no more, because some of them they'll come walking at 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. Just want to start the party. As I mentioned, there's always try to set boundaries. There's a lot of people come in, and also Muslim might not speak English. So if you, you may need an interpreter, request it. Do not ask the family member if there's something kind of intimate question or something. They're not going to give you the answer. So it happened to me. So one time I was with my mom, and it was like about 10 years ago. My mom is born in 1953, so she's 65 now. And I remember about 10 years ago, she was sick, so I took her to the doctor, and the doctor asked me to ask my mom that she still have her menses. I was like, I am not asking my mom this question. Kill me before I ask my mom this question. So I'm like, no, I'm not asking. You go find somebody. So this is why you have to sometimes, rely on professional interpreters. But one of the things also, it's what I found is beneficial, is reaching to the community to support your either children, of course, after asking their permission, children in the school system or adults in the hospital or a nursing home, whatever, reaching to the mosque. Okay, so mosques usually are run by well-educated people and even financially sound people, so they always want to help. And some of them are medical doctors, engineers, and also the imam, who's the religious leader of that center. So they always want to reach out to the community and help. So this is one of the things. If you ever run into this, reach out to the mosque that's in your area, and they will be able to help you. So the OT support of Muslim clients. So spirituality, actually, it's mentioned in our OTPF. So it is part of the thing that we address. And sometimes an illness, pain, trauma can affect it. So we try to assist the person to maintain that level of the spirituality. And also, the centennial vision, that actually was made for, we just celebrate 100 years celebration for OT practice in America. And in it, it was actually mentioned that we are a globally connected and diverse workforce. So learning about Muslims and Islam, it's kind of like go toward that vision. Also, if you have a coworker, so as I mentioned before, they're not interpreting person, work prayer, it usually take about 7 minutes to max, like 7 to 10 minutes. The ablution, like 5 minutes. When they're praying, try to refrain from any distraction, like music or being loud. A Muslim may be uncomfortable, maybe getting invited to like a pub with music and drinking, but maybe they'll be okay in a quiet place and having dinner with their team, but not in a bar where because they don't drink alcohol. A Muslim coworker may come out to eat at a restaurant with the work crowd if they can sit slightly separate table. Some of them may be not even comfortable being in the same table where alcohol is. A Muslim coworker may feel awkward during the holiday season and not return your Christmas gift because they don't believe in Christmas, and they may, some you may just don't know. They may give them an alcohol as a gift, so they're not. It's not an insult or something, but they may say no, I don't drink, and they'll give it back to you. So don't feel like they're insulting you by returning your gift, but just they're respecting their religion. So Muslims may differ in celebration of birthdays. Some of them may not even celebrate their birthday. So if you are unsure, ask. Again, sometimes, as I mentioned, cultures can totally be different than what's in the religion, and you'll find two Muslims from two different countries, and they may look at the things differently. So again, you're dealing with 1.7 billion people, and everybody come from a different region. This is actually a presentation we did at the OTA about supporting Muslims fieldwork students, and in it we looked at at the Western Michigan University. Some students were there from Saudi Arabia, and during their fieldwork, some of the things that they kind of felt that it would be good to let the fieldwork supervisor know earlier. That can be helpful to make the fieldwork experience kind of successful for both, for the CI, the clinical instructor, and also for the students. There is more common that we have, than differences. This is last year we had a celebration for the Ramadan iftar, and this is an imam from Morocco. The lady, there's a Jewish rabbi, and then a priest. That we all sat and did some interfaith dialogue. All right, so the world oldest human species was found in Morocco, so we are all Moroccans. So these are some resources for you if you have any question, or think that, feel free to ask, and I'll be happy to answer them.
So we're going to do some questions and answers. We're going to do some questions and answers.
Yeah.
There we go. So this is your chance to ask some questions of Dr. Nafai about Muslim culture.
Any question, I'm okay. Yes.
Do you celebrate your... Hello. Do you celebrate your birthday?
Me?
Yes.
Yeah, yes and no. Yeah, I like my wife and my kids. They may give me something, but I don't do a big thing about it. So, I turned 45 May 1st, and so they took me out for dinner, and that's about. We didn't like a big party or something. No.
A sea of backpacks.
Not it. Hi there. I'm actually the director of child health over at Maine Health in Portland, and I'm here as a community member to hear about this. I actually have two questions. So I oversee all of our pediatric healthcare work for the entire system, and as part of that, I get to oversee developmental screening, adverse childhood experiences, immunizations, and perinatal opioid use. And so my two questions, one is about immunizations. And we have had differing opinions presented about immunizations in the Muslim culture. And we've had trouble finding a local imam to help us understand locally what the perspective is. Because, of course, there are some immunizations that have gelatin or, a pork derivative in them. And then the other question is about, just perspective and how to do that, how to bridge that. And then I'm also working with a couple colleagues here on early developmental screening and looking at developmental delays and challenges in that way. And we're trying to figure out how to broker relationships with parents to allow us to be able to come into the home and offer these screenings. They're really important, but at the same time, we know that there are some cultural differences around how developmental delays are viewed. So anything you can comment on those two things?
Yeah, good questions. Regarding the immunization, in Islam, if there is a medication, for example, that contains alcohol, and there is another medication that doesn't contain alcohol, I will go with the one that doesn't contain alcohol. However, if there's the only option you have is the one that contains the alcohol or contains the pork, you don't have any other choice. Then it's okay, because the outcome, if you don't take it, you may be dead, which is a more, like we're not allowed to eat, for example, pork or any animal that has that eats meat, any animal that's actually a predator. However, if there is the only thing that's option for you to survive, then you are okay to eat it. So, however, what you can do maybe is, which is, I agree with you, if you reach to an imam in your area and you have their support and he maybe educates the parent, they listen more from an imam than even sometimes a doctor. Because that is a high figure. They respect it more. Is this answering your first question? All right. So your second question regarding the immunization. The screen. Yeah, the first one was immunization. So my wife actually went to something similar we just mentioned. She's an OT, and she's actually in charge of kids when they just come out of EI to qualify them either to be in services in the school. And she works in Worcester Public School, which is about 25,000 children, so it's a big community. She, one of the things that they did is having a play group and inviting the children from all the community and have it actually done in the mosque. Okay, so because I think sometimes they may not feel safe having somebody. These are people who went to trauma, if they're refugees, so sometimes the only place that they feel now they are protected and safe is their home, and they may not feel safe that somebody coming to their home. Right? Some of them maybe are not want to admit that their child has a problem. Right? So I mean, sometimes you can tell just by looking, and they'll tell you, no, at home he's fine, he talks and he jumps, but you can tell it just, and I think it's just like self-defense mechanism that they are unconsciously maybe doing and saying. The play group, at the mosque, and number one, the area where they already feel protected and safe, but also they are playing with people, maybe the children of the people that they identify with. If you also have the imam or a doctor or a therapist or whatever that speak their language, it can explain this to them even better not just about what we mentioned about the playgroup, but also about if they attend to the services right now, it will help them get in better and prepare them for school, and will help them get out of that as much as possible from that disability that they maybe stay with them for a long time. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Yes.
So I have a couple questions. First, thank you so much for coming. This was very informative. So the first one is, during the prayer 5 times a day, if, say, we have a patient, is it best to give them privacy? I was in a situation where I was working with a young girl who had to pray, and I wasn't sure if it was making it awkward that I was offering to leave the room, or if that's something that I should have just stayed and let it happen and keep to myself. What is most preferred, or it just depends on the person?
It's both are okay, as long as you are. So let's say if it's in their office or whatever, as long as you're not standing in front of them, or like, let's say they're praying this way, but there is a working station, a computer or a sink or whatever, and you're walking to get stuff, will be bothering them. If you are doing stuff in the back, that's fine, as long as it's not like loud music or like distracting them. But it's no problem being in the room.
Okay.
Right? However, if it's a female is praying and a male person in the room, she may feel uncomfortable because our prayer is involving movement, body movement. So they may, because when she's bending down, somebody is male behind her, she may feel like it's awkward. So.
Is it just best to ask?
Yeah, that's exactly. It's better to ask. I get asked this question all the time, and I say, no, you're not bothering me at all. Well, so when I work in the hospital or the nursing home, and we have a common area where we do our documentation, I just choose a corner and pray, and they get used to it. But before, they're like, oh, can you? And they say, no, you're fine.
And my other question was, what do you do on your holidays? What is a typical celebration like?
Yeah, so the first in the morning about 8 a.m. we go to the mosque, and that is here in America. In other countries, because of hundreds of thousands of people that they pray outside, there is no mosque will feed them, so they'll go to an area in either like a stadium or whatever, or a soccer field or whatever, or a park, and then they'll pray. The whole thing takes about half hour, 45 minutes, and they'll come back home, have a nice breakfast, and then celebrate at the home, visit family, go outside, and if the second one, which is the sacrifice holiday, is you will see everybody after that prayer coming back, and then they sacrifice a sheep, which is again based on the tradition of Abraham and his son Ishmael, and they'll. When they slaughter the animal, it's expected to give third of it to poor people, and third of it for your family and stuff, and then third of it for yourself.
Thank you.
Great. And this will be our last question.
Hi there, my name is Lisa. I'm from Visiting Nurses, Home Health Hospice. Any suggestions around sensitivity and related to discussions about death and dying, particularly for us at home?
Yeah, good question. The Muslims are not afraid of death. So, when they are somebody sick, terminally ill, they believe this is the wellness of God, that's the will of God. And they'll, always, separation from family. By that, it's sad. They'll feel it, but it's not like they are kind of anxious about it or that they are dying. The family as I mentioned before, if somebody was sick, you'll see a lot of people visiting, a lot of people, which is, however, sometimes it can affect their rest and sleep. And so it's okay to mention, limit the visit, maybe 5 minutes, 2 people at a time, things like that. But there are sometimes some family members hide illness or that there's a terminal illness. Have that ever happened to you? Yeah. So, they do it out of love, but again, it's not fair to the person. They have to make some end-of-life decisions about their will, about their, closure. And so there are times that family member, it's happened to me with some patients as well. Oh, no, don't say that he has terminal cancer. Oh, no, don't say. I was like, he has to know, that is his right. And so I think educating them, and you do your best, but sometimes maybe that's like, no, we know him. If he knows, he's gonna get more sick, or but he's already sick, So this is an area which kind of like awkward at times. But the family are very supportive within the person who is dying. You'll see people coming in and asking for forgiveness. Or the person who is sick, they may call people all over the place because they believe that they're going to go meet God, and they don't want that they did bad to someone but hasn't forgive them yet. So you may see somebody on the phone calling people to forgive them, or asking somebody to give that person $5,000. I owe him $10,000. Because they don't want to go to death with some kind of loan and in their shoulders. So, but it's based on depend on the family they are dealing with as well.
Yeah, let's give Dr. Nafai a warm applause and appreciation for sharing with us. Thank you so much.